All right, let's get straight into it. We're tackling a piece of the UCPR that every new barrister needs to know inside and out, especially for the Queen's End bar exams. I'm talking about Rule 371, your absolute lifeline when a procedural mistake happens.
So picture this. It's the scenario that gives every junior practitioner a cold sweat. You've made a mistake. Maybe you missed a critical deadline. You filed the wrong document. Maybe you joined a party when you shouldn't have. The big question is, what now? Is your client's case completely torpedoed? You know, it's that heart-in-your-stomach moment, that feeling of dread. But, and this is the important part, the rules are designed with a way out. And that solution really starts with understanding the whole philosophy of the UCPR. You've got to think about Rule 5. It's all about the just and expeditious resolution of the real issues. It's not about playing gotcha on technicalities. And the main tool the rules give us to live up to that philosophy, that's Rule 371. So let's break down exactly how you can use it.
Okay, the absolute core principle you have to grasp, and you will be tested on this, is the distinction made in Rule 371, Subrule 1.
The rules draw a really bright line in the sand here. On one side, you have an irregularity. Think of this as a procedural slip-up, a mistake that the court has the power to fix. On the other side, you have a nullity. Now that's a fatal flaw, something so wrong it makes the whole proceeding void from the start. The game-changing takeaway from Rule 371 is that almost every failure to comply with the rules is treated as a fixable irregularity.
And here it is. This is the exact wording from Rule 371, Subrule 1. You need to burn this into your memory for the exam. A failure to comply is an irregularity and does not render a proceeding a nullity. This sentence right here is the foundation of your entire argument when you've messed up.
Okay, so we've established your mistake is an irregularity. Great. But what can the court actually do about it? Well, that brings us to the wide-ranging powers in Rule 371, Subrule 2. Just think of Rule 371, Subrule 2 as the judge's toolkit. They've got options. Sure, they can set aside the whole proceeding or just the mistaken step. But for you, the one trying to fix the problem, the most important power is in Subrule 2D, the power to declare your irregular step effectual. That's the magic wand that saves your client's case. And of course, Subrules E and F are the classic catch-alls, giving the court ultimate flexibility to make any order it thinks is right.
And believe me, this principle gets applied very, very broadly. Take the case of New Asian Shipping. Here, a party made a pretty significant error. They joined a whole new party to the claim without getting the court's permission. You'd think that might be fatal, right? Nope. The court said it was just an irregularity, something that could be cured using the powers in Rule 371.
Now, here's the crucial part. The court can fix your mistake, but it doesn't have to. It's all about discretion. So how do you stand up and persuade a judge that they should exercise that discretion in your client's favor?
For your exam, if you remember one case on Rule 37.1, discretion, it has to be this one. Lutheran Church of Australia versus Parips. This decision by Justice Crowley's gives you the perfect roadmap for the submissions you need to make.
So, when you're on your feet making the argument, you have to hit these Lutheran Church factors. You need a solid explanation for the mistake. You need to show you acted fast to fix it. But really, the key battleground is almost always prejudice. You have to convince the court that the prejudice to your client, if the case dies on a technicality, is far, far greater than any prejudice the other side suffers by letting it go on. And you always tie it back to the overarching goal of Rule 5, getting justice on the merits.
All right, let's step up the difficulty a bit. Let's look at a classic, complex exam scenario. What happens when Rule 371 bumps up against Rule 389, the rule that deals with delay?
So, under Rule 389, Subrule 2, you've got a major hurdle. If 2 years go by since the last step in a proceeding, you're effectively barred from taking a new one. The proceeding is stayed. To get things moving again, you have to first give a month's notice. And then, if that time passes, you have to get the court's leave.
Visually, it's pretty simple. The clock starts ticking from the last formal step. Once you cross that 2-year line, bang, the case is frozen. Any step you take after that point without getting leave first is a breach of Rule 389.
So what if you just take a step anyway? Well, the Court of Appeal in Euro v. Robertson spelled it out for us. That step you took, it's an irregularity, and it falls squarely under Rule 371. But, and this is the part you cannot forget, taking that irregular step does not automatically lift the stay from Rule 389. the case is still frozen. But here is the brilliant strategic move, again laid out for us in Lutheran Church versus Perips. You can make an application directly under Rule 37.1, Subrule 2D, asking the court to declare your irregular step effectual. And if you win that argument, it not only cures the irregularity, it effectively lifts the stay. It's a direct path to getting the case back on track without needing a whole separate application for leave under Rule 389. It's a very powerful tool.
And don't for a second think this only applies to prejudgment stuff. The Court of Appeal in Amos v. Wiltshire made it clear that Rule 37.1 applies to the entire UCPR, including steps taken after judgment. In that case, even a small miscalculation of interest on an enforcement warrant was found to be a curable irregularity. The scope is huge.
Okay, let's pull all of this together and lock in the absolute key concepts you need to walk into that exam room with. First, the mantra from Rule 371, Subrule 1. It's an irregularity, not a nullity. Say it with me. Second, you need to know the court's toolkit of remedies from Rule 371, Subrule 2. Third, when it comes to discretion, your entire framework is the list of factors from Lutheran Church. Fourth, understand the powerful interaction. Rule 371 can be your backdoor to curing a Rule 389 delay breach. And finally, your anchor, your guiding star is always Rule 5. Frame your argument around the idea that a ruling for you serves the ultimate goal, justice on the real issues, not on a technical slip-up.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Rule 371 isn't just some dry procedural rule you have to memorize. It is the living, breathing embodiment of the court's modern philosophy. It's a powerful weapon in the hands of an advocate who is focused on getting real, substantive justice. The only question is, how are you going to use it?